All right. Hello, everyone. It is 8 o'clock, Wednesday, August 19th, and I'm Milton Davis, Black Fantastic author and owner of MV Media LLC, a small publishing company that focuses on science fiction and fantasy based on African American culture and tradition. And good to be here as always. Um, Something for me to do in the evenings, and hopefully something that you guys are interested in. I'm going to see if I can pull you up on Facebook as always, so I can catch the live thing going on. Hey, Barry. Barry's here. Barry's a faithful listener. He's here, has been here for just about every reading, I think. Like always, we're going to give everybody a few minutes to gather around, and then I'll get started. Um, Trying to see if I can get you guys on live again. Okay, I see you. See if I can bring this up. Oh, Gary. Barry asked where are the tunes. Well, Barry, I had to stop doing the tunes because what happens is that when I do the music, and later on when I put the videos up on YouTube, um, if the music is copyrighted, then YouTube would only partially show it to people. So anywhere the music has been copyrighted, YouTube won't show the video. So I'm kind of stuck there. But here I am again trying to struggle and get this thing going, get this video thing going. Um, doesn't look like it's showing up for me. So hopefully, if you guys make some comments, I can see them on the computer, on the laptop. On the desktop tonight, and that'll work for us. I'm gonna try one more time. It says view as public view. Let's see if I pop up there. There I go. There I go. There we go. Well, anyway, um, Grandpa Hands. Before a little intro on the story. It's got a few more minutes here. Um, I see Mr. Linwood is here. Hey John, how you doing? I know it's late for you, man. So luckily this story is not a long one, so we won't keep you up too late. Let's get this thing actually trying to. And still trying to get this phone going. So if I don't see your comments, you guys know what's going on. I have this struggle every day. One day I'll get it right. One day I will get it right. So we got about 3 minutes in. Um, Come on, come on, come on. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Um, Grandpa Hands is part of my Visions collection. Back in 2008, when I first started writing, I used to write a lot of short stories. And they were a variety of short stories on different things. Some of them were fantasy stories, some of them were science fiction stories. But it was just kind of like trying my hand at different genres just to see what I felt comfortable with. And what I did was I got all these stories and combined them together and let them out as a small collection called Visions. It's actually available as an ebook on at MV Media, on Amazon, and on for Nook, for iTunes, and everything like that. And after I'm done reading, I will actually post up links for them. Um, Out of all the stories in the book, Grandpa's Hand is probably the only one that's not fantastic fiction. It's actually based on a incident, or I guess you say an encounter that I had years ago with my grandfather on my mother's side. We called him Grandpa. Never met my grandfather on my father's side because he had passed away before we were born. My father was the youngest of 12 kids. But I did spend some time with my grandfather on my mother's side, who rarely talked to us, but he was always waiting for us when we visited the farm with a piece of sugar cane, a box of Cracker Jacks, and a Coke. So he got us all sugared up, then he walked away and then left everybody else to deal with us. But this story is kind of based on the one time that I actually had a conversation with my grandfather. It's been embellished because I wanted to incorporate some other things more in general about the time that he grew up and lived in the Columbus, Georgia area. But a lot of it is based on my conversation with him. Hello, Deandra. How you doing? Um, Again, like I tell everybody, is I can't really get everything on here. So, hey, Nicole, I can't really see your comments, so I'm gonna go ahead and start reading, and hopefully you enjoy the story. Again, the name of this story is Grandpa's Hands. Michael felt warmth radiating from his wood-paneled bedroom wall and sprang from his bed. The smell of bacon wafted into his room as he hurried into the jeans and sweatshirt he'd set out the night before, wrestling on his tennis shoes and trotting through the narrow hallway into the kitchen. Mama stood before the stove, one hand holding the black iron skillet in place, while the other scrambled a pair of eggs in a pool of bacon grease. "What you doing up so early, boy?" she asked without looking. Michael sat at the dinette, folding his eager hands under his chin. "You going to Grandma's?" he asked. Mama scraped the scrambled eggs onto a plate. "I go out there every Saturday morning. You know that." Michael played with the napkin holder, rocking his head from side to side. "Can I go?" Mama was reaching for the grits but stopped, placing her small hands on her broad hips. "Now, why in the world do you want to go with me?" "'Cause I want to go hunting." Mama rolled her eyes. "You and that gun. I told your daddy not to buy you that thing unless he was going to go hunting with you. His tired behind ain't been out with you yet." She scooped a spoonful of grits from onto the plate and joined the eggs and mixed the eggs and bacon. "You know you can't go by yourself, and your daddy ain't waking up anytime soon." Michael smothered his grits with pepper. "Uncle Willie would take me." "How you know he's going hunting today? This close to harvest time, he's probably got chores." Michael piled his eggs on top of his grits, then crumbled the bacon and spread the bits over the eggs. "I called him last night, and he said he was going." Mama turned around and looked at him, her eyes wide. "You did what?" She shook her head. "Lord, Lord, what am I going to do with you?" She began to make her own plate and stopped. "What about that book report you're supposed to be working on? You finished it yet?" "No, ma'am." "No? Then how you expect to go with me if you got homework to do?" "I'll finish it as soon as I get home, Mama. I promise." Mama turned to look at Michael. "What you writing about?" Michael spread apple jelly on his toast. "I'm supposed to write about my hero. I'm thinking about Frederick Douglass." Michael finished his food before Mama sat down. "I guess you can go, but we ain't coming back till I'm ready. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am. And I want that book report after church tomorrow." "Yes, ma'am." Michael jumped from the table and ran to Mama and Daddy's room to get his .22. He hoarded his lawn cutting money all summer to buy it as a birthday present to himself. It was a Springfield Savage .22 semi-automatic long rifle, the perfect gun for hunting squirrels and rabbits. So the sales clerk at Sears said. Michael pushed the door open quietly and crept to the closet beside the bed. Daddy was stretched out on top of the covers in his boxer shorts and t-shirt, snoring through his thick mustache. The closet door creaked when Michael slid it aside, and Daddy's hand came up to scratch his sideburns. Michael froze until Daddy stopped scratching, then slid the door wide open. The gun was hidden behind Mama's Sunday dresses. He took it out, then went to Daddy's loose change drawer where he kept the bullets. There was a brand new pack of 100 shells that felt like money in his hands. Michael strode into the kitchen, carrying the rifle the way Daddy taught him. Mama looked up from her cup of coffee and grinned despite herself. "You look just like your Uncle Bo when he was your age," she said. She got up from the table and headed for the room. "Guess I better get ready. The day ain't getting any longer. Get the dishes." "Yes, ma'am." Michael leaned the .22 against the wall, placed the bullets on the kitchen counter, and washed the dishes. When he was done, he took the rifle and bullets with him to the den. He laid the gun down on the floor and then turned on the TV to watch cartoons. He'd almost forgotten about going when Mama came into the room. "Cut that mess off and let's go," she said. Michael scrambled to his feet, grabbing the gun and the bullets. Now remember what I said. We don't leave until I'm ready. Yes, ma'am. And if your Uncle Willie can't take you hunting, you don't go. Yes, ma'am. All right, then. Let's go. Michael trailed Mama out the door into the carport and into the 67 Sky Blue Malibu. In moments, they were zooming through the neighborhood down steep hills and between little water oaks the city had planted to beautify the neighborhood. Mama worked her way through the side streets and shortcuts with the seriousness of a NASCAR driver, eventually reaching the 2-lane highway that ran right to Grandma's farm. The sky was a crisp autumn blue, empty of the gray summer haze. The morning sun spread its light across the pine-infested hills unobstructed, its brilliance forcing Michael to shade his eyes with his hands. It felt like hunting season, and Michael was excited. He watched the familiar landmarks flash by from his back seat window until he saw the solitary shack that signaled the farm wasn't far away. Mama finally slowed down as the roadside mailboxes came into view. She steered off the paved highway and onto the dirt road. She was creeping as they approached the railroad crossing. Only the section crossing of the road was visible, the rest blocked by a tangle of scrub pines and honeysuckle vines. Mama turned left after crossing the tracks. She drove through a gauntlet of blackberry vines that made Michael's mouth water when he thought about blackberry pie and ice cream. They turned right at the hog pens, and the house appeared, flanked by the corn and pea fields. Mama drove down the road to the rear of the house, parking between the house and the shed. Michael jumped out the car before Mama came to a complete stop, his impatient eyes searching for Uncle Willie. His euphoria was checked by a jerk of his arm that almost lifted him off his feet. Boy, don't you ever jump out of a car like that again. Mama's face was get me a switch angry. Don't go hitting that boy, a much older female voice growled. Grandma stood at the screen door of the back patio. Michael blessed her for saving him from what was surely going to be a whooping, or at least a pinch on the arm. She eased down the concrete stairs, wiping her hands on her apron. Did you see what he did? Mama said. He ain't dead, is he? Grandmama grinned at Michael. You'll know better the next time, won't you, Michael? Yes, ma'am. Michael followed Grandma and Grandpa up the stairs. Since he'd made Mama mad, he sat beside the women on an old folding chair and took his share of the butter beans from the bushel and began shelling peas. He kept his eyes low and peeled while they talked, waiting for the right moment to ask the question that was burning to get out of his throat. Mama stopped talking as she grabbed another handful of beans. Michael cleared his throat and looked up at Grandma. Grandma, is Uncle Willie here? Shoot, boy, Willie went hunting right about sunup. He won't be back until dark. Michael slumped over like he'd been hit by a brick. He looked at Mama with pleading eyes. I told you no hunting by yourself with that gun, she reminded him. I'll take him. Grandpa shuffled in from the kitchen, his hands deep in his overall pockets. He smiled at Michael, flashing his gold tooth, and Michael was filled with dread. You feel like hunting, Daddy? Mama asked. You're supposed to be resting. I don't want to go hunting no more, Michael whispered. I feel fine, Grandpa replied, pulling his right hand out of his pocket. Michael watched the gnarled, scarred appendage rise to the old man's bald head. It was hideous, like something from the freak show at the county fair. When he was small, he was always careful to avoid or being touched by that hand and his mirror twin. He thought when he was older he'd get over the fear, but it was just clinging onto him like as real as ever. I don't want to go hunting no more, he said louder. Is it all right? Mama asked Grandma. Grandma concentrated on the peas. The doctor said he needed to get some exercise. I don't want to go no more, Michael shouted. Boy, can't you see grown folks talking? Mama nailed him still with her stare, then returned to her conversation. Well, Daddy, I guess it's all right, but you keep a close eye on him. He can get wild sometime. What you mean you guess it's all right? Grandpa said. I'll take this boy anywhere I want to. Come on, boy, let's go hunting. Michael watched the back of Grandpa's head as he bounced down the stairs. He looked at Mama in desperation. What you waiting on? Go on now. Michael turned and followed Grandpa down the stairs. He could do this. He was 12 going on 13, with 2 hairs on his chest and the start of a mustache on his upper lip. His confidence had almost returned until he caught a glimpse of those hands pulling out a pouch of red man chewing tobacco. He jumped past Grandpa and trotted to the car to get his .22 as Grandpa stuck a pinch of tobacco in his mouth. What you gonna kill with that? Time? Michael ignored the comment, holding the gun toward the ground like Daddy taught him and making sure the safety was on. Squirrels and rabbits, sir, he said. Grandpa laughed like a wet growl. Can't kill no squirrels with that thing. Ain't gonna do nothing but make 'em mad. I should have brought my shotgun. Grandpa started walking and Michael followed. They strolled down a trail branching off the dirt road with cut between the barn and the old mule stables. No, can't kill nothing with that thing, Grandpa continued. Can't kill it right, I mean. You shoot a squirrel with that and he'll be running around mad, hurting and hiding. A shotgun will put it down just like that. Grandpa stopped walking and Michael almost ran into him. See this? He said, pointing at a dent between his right thumb and the finger. Shot a squirrel one time and thought he was dead. I guess I should have asked him before I went picking him up. Damn thing took hold of me right there like a beaver trap. Took a half an hour to get it loose, and it was dead half that time. Michael looked at the spot and grimaced, imagining how painful that must have felt. Suddenly the scar and the hand were gone, sinking deep into Grandpa's pocket. They walked to the second hog pen where the trail ended, the air heavy with the stink of swamp mud and hog droppings. Before them was a turnip green field, the fall planted full and ready for harvest. Grandpa walked into the field and over to the barbed wire fence separating the field from the woods. Michael hadn't planned on going into those trees. It was a tangle of pines, oaks, and muscadine vines that seemed perpetually dark as it repulsed the sun's attempt to penetrate its core. Blind obedience only went so far. Grandpa, are we going in there? You want to shoot squirrels, don't you? Michael reluctantly nodded his head. Well, this is the best spot for him. At least it was a while back. Come over here and hold this wire down for me. Michael sat the gun down on the opposite side of the fence, then grabbed the wire carefully, pushing it down with his weight. Grandpa stepped over, his hand gripping Michael's shoulder for support. Michael closed his eyes, keeping his head away from the hand. Got to be careful, Grandpa said as he grunted his way over the fence. Once he and Michael were settled, he showed his left hand. When I was about your Uncle Willie's age, I worked for a white man named Mr. Elias Burnside in his sawmill. It was hard work back then because a colored man did whatever the boss said do, even if it wasn't your job. Well, one day I was putting up a fence like this one on Mr. Burnside's farm, and before I knew it, I was up to my ankles in fire ants. Boy, I got to jumping around and screaming and tore my hand up on that barbed wire. Took me a long time to get this hand back right. Michael climbed over the fence. The woods towered before them in black silence, its stillness a final warning to all intruders. Michael's eyes went to Grandpa, waiting for him to lead the way. Instead, Grandpa spit out his tobacco, then leaned against the fence post. We stay here and we wait, Grandpa said. They'll come to us. Michael never dreamed of a more terrible fate. In front of him were the scariest woods on the farm, and beside him was Grandpa. He sat on the ground with his rifle across his lap as he watched Grandpa massage his hands. They must hurt all the time, he thought. Maybe he was used to it. The pain was there, but had become a part of Grandpa's life like this receding gray hair on his head. Why are you rubbing your hands, Grandpa? He asked. They get to itching sometime, he answered. You got arthritis? Grandpa tilted his head up and stared at Michael. What? Shoot, boy. Ain't nothing wrong with me but old age. These hands are fine. He moved close to Michael and turned his right hand up, pointing at thick yellow circles of rigid flesh below each finger. This comes from hard work, boy. I got these trophies swinging an axe longer than you've been alive. He turned his hand over and placed a finger on the faint line near his pinky finger. See this line here? I got this when your mama was born. We didn't have no hospital for colored folks back then, so the midwife come over from Milton to help deliver her. Your grandmama was going through an awful time. So I slipped up in the room and told her to bite on my hand till she felt better. Lord Almighty, that woman can bite. Grandpa chuckled. Michael studied Grandpa's hand, trying to make up a story about every indentation, line, scar, and curve. They began a game of show and tell, Michael asking and Grandpa telling as the sun passed over them between cotton puff clouds. Where did those come from? Michael pointed at the twin scars ringing Grandpa's wrist. The glow that had been building in the old man's face fled. He straightened and walked along the fence. Grandpa, wait! Michael jumped to his feet and grabbed his rifle, running until he caught up. Grandpa hummed, his eyes focused somewhere up ahead. Michael grabbed his arm. Come on, Grandpa. Let's go back to the house. Grandpa jerked his arm away. You want to know how I got these scars, don't you? Michael dropped his head and nodded. Come on with me then, Grandpa said. They walked in silence past the peas to the watermelons. Grandpa picked a small melon, then walked over to a wide tree stump and eased himself down. He pulled out his pocket knife and began slicing. Michael sat beside him and Grandpa handed him a glistening red wedge. Remember when I told you I worked at Mr. Burnside's mill? Yes, sir. Well, I was looking to buy me some land for a farm, and old Burnside's heard about it. One day he calls me into his office and offers me this land you're sitting on for $500. At first I thought he was playing with me, but old Burnside had a habit of doing things for people he liked, white or colored. So I jumped for the deal like a frog to water, giving him $100 straight out and working out a deal for the other four. Michael listened as he munched on his melon slice. He imagined Grandpa as a young man, tall and strong like Uncle Willie, pulling logs and plowing fields while fussing at Mama for doing something she wasn't supposed to do. The distance between them melted away. The old man with the crippled hands became a real person, father of Mama and Uncle Willie, husband and provider for Grandma. Well, Grandpa continued, I took to clearing that land every evening after work. Sometimes with my brother Bo and Lil Red, but most of the time by myself. One evening I was alone chopping wood and I see this truck rolling up. By the time I figured out what was going on, it was too late to run. Two white men got out of that truck and the biggest one had a shotgun. What the hell you doing on this land, boy? He said. This here's my land, I says. You lying, the little one said. We sold this land to Tom Burnside, so unless you out here waiting on him, you best be getting on, nigga. Now I was so mad I couldn't think straight. Mr. Burnside sold me this land, I yelled. I paid for it, fair and square. The big man turned red as fire. That son of a bitch, he said. He took it to the short man and said, I told you not to sell that land to that old fool. Everybody knows Tom's crazy. The short man got his evil grin on his face. Ain't no problem. This boy's gonna give us our land back. Ain't you, boy? Grandpa bit into his melon, taking his time to chew. Now, if I hadn't spent so much time clearing and chopping, I would have gave it back. But my sweat was in the ground. It belonged to me. This is my land, and I'm keeping it, I says. The big man started grinning like the devil's son. You'll give it back sooner or later, he said. I tried to run, but that big man was faster than he looked. They wrestled me down, and the little one knocked me out with that shotgun butt. When I woke up, I was hanging by my wrist from a big oak tree. The big man had a long piece of rope wrapped around his hands, and as soon as he saw I was awake, he started tearing into me. I wanted to holler so loud the angel would come down to get me. But when I opened my mouth, Amazing Grace came out. I sang that song louder than I had in church, and I meant it more too. I tell you, boy, the Lord must have heard me, because by the time I stopped singing that song, them white men were gone. They left me hanging, swinging back and forth like a broke branch until about dark. That's when my brothers come back looking for me and cut me down. Michael's hands twisted the stock of his rifle, the veins showing from his forearms. What you do to those white men, Grandpa? Grandpa looked at Michael with a melancholy smile. Nothing. Couldn't do a damn thing. See, back then, the law kept a colored man from being strong on the outside, so you had to be strong in here. He patted Michael's chest with his hand, and Michael didn't mind. No, I didn't do nothing to them, but I cut that damn oak tree down. Grandpa looked at his wrist, turning his hands back and forth. That's how I got these scars here, and that's how this fine sitting stump came to be. Grandpa struggled to his feet. Come on, boy. It's about time we get back. Them squirrels looking at us and laughing. Okay, Grandpa, Michael said. He grasped Grandpa's hand and pulled himself up. They stood for a moment, his young smooth hand in Grandpa's leathery scarred grip. Then they let go and headed back for the house. Mama was putting a bunch of collars in the car when Michael and Grandpa walked up. So where are all the squirrels, she asked. In the woods, Grandpa replied. That's all right, though. We'll get them next time. Won't we, Michael? Yes, sir. We sure will. Get in the car, baby, Mama said. We gotta go. Michael emptied the .22, placed it in the trunk beside the collar. He sat on the passenger side as Mama hugged Grandpa's neck. Bye, Daddy. I love you. Grandpa grunted and walked toward the house. Mama climbed in the car with a smile. That man is something else, she said. Mama started the car and they drove away down the road. Michael turned to see Grandpa waving goodbye. He smiled and waved back until Grandpa disappeared in distance and dust. Mama, I ain't writing about Frederick Douglass, Michael said. Who you writing about then? She asked. I'm writing about Grandpa, Michael replied. Mama turned to look at Michael, her eyes glistening as she smiled at him. Lord have mercy, she said. Lord have mercy. And that is Grandpa's Hands. Give y'all a little chance to catch up with me. Okay, I got the comments now. Like I said, that is from my short story collection, Visions. I'm going to post the links up here, so if any of you guys are interested in getting the collection, you can get them directly from me. You can copy this here and paste this. Paste. You can get it from Amazon. I guess it's going to let that Amazon link come up. Or I'm going to give you another link to a site called Books to Read, where you can actually get it for Nook and iBooks and all that other cool stuff. And those are the links to it. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes and see if anybody has any questions. Okay, David said that he was sort of listening, sort of following until they headed into the woods and it became very moving. That, like I said, that story kind of came from my experience with my grandpa and some experiences in general from different people that I knew that grew up during that time. From my father, from my uncles, from my aunts, just talking to them about growing up. And whenever people would ask me when I was younger who my heroes were, I would always say my family, because I knew how they grew up and I knew what they had to deal with. And for them to be able to accomplish what they were able to accomplish despite everything, and to be able to provide for us in a way to where we were able to go forward and move forward. To me, that's what made them heroes. I call them, they were ordinary heroes. They're the people that you don't see out in the forefront, but they're the people that's out there struggling and fighting the fight like everybody else, and providing for us, because they see in us the future that the future that they weren't able to have, but they kind of live it through us. Yeah, David. Yeah, the name of the story is Grandpa's Hands. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. It was a short story. We only spent like about 30 minutes a day. I will be back next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to read as of yet, but I will be reading something, probably a little steampunk or something like that. Maybe dipping into a little science fiction. I'm not sure, but I will be back this time next week to read. So again, I got the links up for you guys if you want to check out the short story collection. Read some of the other stories in there. There's like I said, it's an eclectic collection, and I think there's a little bit of everything for everybody. And again, I hope you enjoy it. And you guys take care and have a great evening. Take care. Bye bye.